All right, it's almost midnight. Well, it's 11:30 p.m. and I've been wanting to do a scene with some loons for quite some time. And I just got this email from this photo paper manufacturer about their products and whatnot. They were looking at a video of mine where I previously stamped on photo paper, comparing it to cardstock, glossy cardstock, that is. And I was surprised at just kind of I don't know, the finish that the photo paper had. Now, I've done this before, and the process of stamping on top of photo paper, as far as glazed dye-based inks go, and layering them, is not the most pleasant type of process in terms of the absorption and drying factor that takes place when you're using that type of process on the emulsion coated types of photo papers. Okay, photo papers, inkjet printing papers, they're all kind of that emulsion coating, where glossy cardstocks are clay coated. Okay, so the difference between like glossy and a photo paper and a glossy cardstock. I mean, this one's a little bit yellowed because it's like 20 years old or something like that. But just from the looks of them, you really wouldn't be able to tell, I don't think, visually which one's which. I mean, this one because it's older, but, just looking at the papers like this. Now, one of them is going to be a little bit more kind of vinyl, to the feel and whatnot. But, I mean, when you look up close, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if I just was able to look at them and not feel them, okay? But even when feeling them, I don't know if I'd be able to tell the difference, okay? So that's where a lot of people get kind of confused. If you haven't done, if you're not a crafter, or a card maker, you might not know this. If you're a card maker, you'll know all the differences between the different papers and whatnot. But sometimes I get people watching a glossy cardstock video, and they'll attempt to do that same type of process on the photo paper, which can be done, but it's a much different feel going into it. So that being said, I almost never do this, but I want to try it again because I was looking at that video. I don't know, I fast forwarded to the end, and I don't know, the inks look pretty good on that type of paper, but let's see if I can get something done. Okay, so killing two birds with one stone. Let's just do a scene with some loons. It's been really hot today, or all week, and it's really muggy here in my office, so I was thinking about a very cool toned, kind of a post-twilight type of scene, in a very foggy, cool environment. That's what I was always telling people you can do. Hello, Phyllis. You find that when you stamp on photo paper, some of the paper surface pulls up on my... Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Phyllis. It just has that emulsion coating, so it really grabs those... the inks. It almost like it dries so fast, and it's like this absorption into that surface, and that emulsion can kind of pull off if you keep the stamp down too long. I'm going to try it here, and like I said, I don't know when the last time I did this, because it's not my type of process or feel, as far as the types of things that I like. So, I don't do it. It's just easier to go with glossy cardstock. Okay, but here's the thing. Hello, Marta. How are you tonight? Or how are you today? Wherever everyone is. Here's the thing about the photo paper, okay? The photo paper, a lot of us have it, okay? If you were buying printers in the 90s and early 2000s, and everyone was buying and printing their photographs, from their digital cameras and everything like that. A lot of people have this stuff because oftentimes it was like, okay, you buy this printer and you get one, pack of 50 sheets of 8.5 by 11 photo paper. I know people that have just tons of it, okay? I have tons of it, 4x6, 8x10s. We have packs of 11x17 that came with certain printers. And that's the good thing about it. So, you know, I'll show you the way that I use it. Not in terms of the colors I'm going to use. I mean, you can use them in any way, but what the thing is with my ink applications, I find it kind of a clumsy process in terms of glazing inks on there. Maybe if you're doing light applications with like a, you know, the cosmetic ink app, you know, makeup applicators where you're just kind of dabbing into it and it's kind of going in for a kind of a softer look. Maybe that would be good. But when I'm using inks, I typically go for a lot more of a thicker kind of glazed application of tone and kind of heavy saturations, what isn't, it's not really conducive for this surface, okay? And I always tell people that, you know, if you're going to be using some sort of medium and surface, you look for the types of applications that are going to be ideal for that combination, you know, the most conducive in terms of the techniques and processes and stuff like that. So I'm going to be going against that. All right. I'm going to be going against what I recommend, okay? Yeah, that's exactly what it is, huh, Phyllis? You're explaining it exactly. It grabs, it drags, it pulls, and it's because it's like this sticky thing that goes back into solution in it. And then it, oh, I don't know, it kind of, it dries, and then it's like, it becomes like a glue or something like that. I don't know, that's the only way I can kind of describe it, you know, because of that emulsion coating. I find that the impressions, though, seem to look pretty good. So I think the thing that I'm going to try is I'm going to try to fill in as much as possible with my imagery, and we'll get that kind of sticking thing going on here. But I'm going to try and, I don't know, work with that. Or work around it. See, that it was like totally sticking right there. So it was a very quick impression, and it was like dry, okay? It grabbed the ink off of here. I usually have a lot more residual ink on the stamp after even like a 10-second impression and lifting, but on this one, it was, you know, it really stuck there. All right, so, but it's not too bad of an impression. The impressions I always felt looked pretty good. And when people are using photo paper, the thing that I usually mention to them is, I like the photo paper with alcohol inks, because alcohol inks are very surface oriented and I can just color in there. I don't think I'm going to do it on this one. I just want to try it with the dye-based inks again. I don't know, just to see how it comes out. I like to get some decent applications of or processes for people with things that they have. Ideal, I want the easiest application though, but like if someone's in, I don't know, like a country where it's just not easy to access or source something like glossy cardstock. Glossy cardstock's in every country, okay? But it's usually meant for, you know, it's designed and it's marketed to the printing, you know, clientele, professional printers. So, you know, chrome coat or something like that. It's not easy to find for just your average consumer, especially in other countries, even Canada or something like that. You know, it can be difficult to find. Okay, so I'm doing kind of lighter impressions because I want this to be a real foggy kind of environment in here. When I'm done with this, so I'm making this really light, so that's why I've been kind of wiping off the bottom portion of this too. But yeah, we'll see what we can do here, fellas. Yeah, I plan, you know, I'm sure that I'm going to be running into all of these issues here. undesirable issues. But we'll just try to work with it and see if we can work around it, or I don't know, is it working around it? It just kind of working through it, maybe. Okay, so this is the Pine Island right in here. Okay, so not too bad. All right, so here's my thing that I was also contemplating here, was the use of StazOn inks. So, I mean, if dye-based inks really stick, can you imagine the StazOn, using StazOn on this? I mean, StazOn just, it really sticks on anything, like non-porous surfaces, like foils or something like that. But hello, Daphne. Yeah, I was wondering. I logged on one time before at midnight. And I was thinking, I wonder if anyone's going to be around. And I figured if they are, then so be it. If they're not, then it's going to be recorded anyway. But then I was getting people from, I don't know, waking up in, Europe. You know, it was like 6 a.m. for them. And then I was getting people in Australia or something like that. But good, great to see everyone here. Okay, but anyways, yeah, StazOn on photo paper. I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts on that one? I don't know if I should. But I plan on using some dye-based inks to go over this. And I'm just kind of wondering if I should do StazOn on there, or if it will, when I'm toning over the top of these impressions. These ones are going to be in black, okay? This foreground here. So, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things I'm kind of wondering about. A lot of people have, Atlanta. Are you just up normally at this time then, Daphne? Yeah. I don't have to imagine StazOn. Let's see how it goes. It could stick to this, and I could just, it might like totally like tear off that surface like we were talking about, though. I think I'm gonna just go with the dye-based here, okay? And even at that, I think I'm going to re-ink my black pad just to get more ink on there, just so it will release. Because there's going to be a lot of surface area on this image with all that solid there. I'll do the StazOn on another video. I just have a feeling it will just peel that emulsion right off of there. I mean, these dye-based inks, I mean, once you stamp it on this glossy cardstock, once you stamp it on the photo paper, glossy photo paper, I mean, it's pretty dry to the touch very quickly. So, yeah, I just think that it would just dry too fast. Okay, so I need to work quick with this. It's almost like, you know how you work with StazOn? They say you have to work really fast. With photo paper, I think you have to work, reasonably fast as well, for that sticking, drying, peeling issue. No, I'm just gonna go for a really, I don't know, real simple, quick composition right here. After all, it is like almost midnight for me. Daphne, what is it? It's almost 11:47, 12. Is it 1:47 for you in Atlanta? Okay, let's see here. Let's go a little bit higher right here, I think, or lower. Let's go higher. I'll go a little bit off the page like this. Hello, Glenda. Good morning. All right, 2 impressions. Let's go for the... Oh, it's almost 3. Okay, so you're in Eastern Standard, huh? every time I went back east, especially to Eastern Standard Time, it always gave me such jet lag. You know, especially because we never had like acclimation time. So going from the West Coast to conventions, and I never went to a convention in Georgia, but I did workshops out there. The workshops weren't too bad because you're not starting those like in the morning or anything like that. Well, or did I? Did I do a 9 a.m. there? I was usually 9 to 12, 1 to 4, and 5 to 8 or something like that. Okay, so anyways, there is that. Again, this is photo paper if anyone's just logged on and checking out the vid here. And photo paper, like I said, I mean, the impressions look fantastic on photo paper with no problem. It's when people start doing like layered applications of inks, if they do that kind of technique on here, where it can get a little bit more precarious because of the emulsion coated, fast drying nature of this type of paper. After all, inkjet papers, they're designed to dry fast. You don't want it coming out of your printer and like taking a half hour to dry or something like that. It's supposed to dry fairly fast. So that's the issues with this type of surface here. And again, you can do much lighter types of applications of ink on here, probably with, like makeup brushes, that type of look. They call them ink blending brushes, those makeup brushes that a lot of people like to use, which I might be ordering soon. I don't like it for the application processes with that little handle and it's bending all around or something like that, but I just got a bunch of stencils, and I think they would be great with the stencils, so yeah. I ordered some stencil brushes, but I'm also looking at some of those kind of toothbrush style makeup wands. I have one around, so I didn't want to buy another one because I'm not using tons of colors with it. But for something like this, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea. Okay, so let's see, filling in here a little bit more. Okay, and again, if you just logged on, this is going to be kind of a loon environment. I have these loons right here. I might just use one of them, I'm not sure. Like something like down here, maybe. I have this these loon sound effects that come in iMovie, and I like adding those little types of things in my intro video edits. I always like finding like different sounds and things like that, music to go with my videos. It's always fun stuff. But I thought, I gotta do something with that loon, because there's that loon sound effect. Okay, let's see here. Let's go with some of this in the background, okay? But let's do that in a really light tone. Let's go with these. Oh, laurel green. Looks like gray to me. Let's see. It is very late or very early for all of you. I was talking to someone that was on Eastern Standard, and I was on, for me it was like 3 a.m. And I didn't know where, I think they were in Georgia too, so yeah, 3 hours in. I said, by the way, are you up late or are you up early? And they were someone that gets up like at, I don't know, like at 5 or something like that. Okay, so Rocky Peaks, blending off. Again, I want this one to look really foggy and misty, okay? It's really hot and muggy right now where I am. So I want it really cool and, I don't know, very, Well, I don't know. Yeah, temperature, cool, you know, in this video, this scene. Because I'm going to escape into the scene from a, you know, subconscious standpoint, right? Okay, let's see. That one stamped out a little bit darker than what I wanted, but that's all right. Okay, so I took off a little bit more off this one. I'm putting kind of streaks back into this too, because I want this to be kind of this, you know, these horizontal kind of striations in here. All right, I'm going over some trees that are lighter than these ones right here. I did these ones a little bit lighter, so I'm taking off more ink right here too, okay? Just go over it like so. Look at that sticky, I don't know if you can hear that, but that really sticks in there. Curious. Okay, see, you can't even get like a second impression out of that just because it grabs the ink so much. I don't know, so far so good though in terms of, you know, the impressions, but I knew that, kind of forgot how to, you know, using this a lot, just because I never do. But again, you know, we should come up with some different applications and styles of applications that, you know, people can utilize that might not have access to certain types of media. Okay, so, yeah, Marta, I gotta get some of those brushes. I'm just kind of wondering if do the smaller ones, you know, work good for stenciling too in the tighter details, or just the larger ones in general just work? On Golden Pond soundtrack. That's right. All right, so, okay, so one of the things that occurred to me too, I don't always do this, but a lot of people seem to like the technique of utilizing textures for a toning process, okay? And I thought, okay, that would work really good for photo paper, because the application of like layering inks on photo paper, that's the thing that gets a little bit clumsy if we have to do a lot of it. So if we fill in a lot of area already with tone, then we won't have to do so much toning in post impressions, post stamping, okay? Okay, so let's see here. Oh, on my previous video I used Summer Skies, my first color. Let's do that. Hello in Norway! What time is it in Norway right now? I always get a kick out of, oh, you already wrote it. 8:55, that's what I was mentioning earlier. I was saying, yeah, some people, you know, were like waking up, and then, like on the other side of the globe, some people were like, I don't know, having lunch, or I don't know, whatever it was, like in Australia or something like that, on other times. Okay, but, in Norway, see, like in Norway, I am picking up some of that color off of that, which I'm surprised at, okay? But like in Norway, are you able to find like glossy cardstock, you know? I don't know, you probably could, but can you find it easily? You used to be able to find glossy cardstock everywhere, okay? Stores carried it, manufacturers carried it. I've found that it's much harder to find these days, but like it was easier to find like in the 90s because everyone was stamping on glossy cardstock, okay? So someone might have a source and whatnot, and then everyone would get that, and it was just very well known, even though we didn't have the internet and it was harder to share information. But look at that smudginess coming off of that tree right there. That surprises me. That's why I was wondering if I should have done stays on, but I don't know, stays on photo paper might be kind of precarious, so who knows. Okay, but I plan on making this kind of a grayish tinge in here anyway. I don't want those like high noon blue, okay? I want it to look really kind of atmospheric and moody and misty and all that, okay? So again, I'm adding this in repetition. If you just stamp this once, it looks like a design of texture, okay? If you add it more, it just becomes texture, and then if you tap it enough, it becomes kind of textural tone, all right? Okay, so I will get the multi-size pack of the those brushes, I think. I have a lot to learn with from stencils. 4 large packs of glossy in the early 2000s. Awesome. As it was, I don't know. It probably was reasonably, you know, I don't know about easy, but it was around though. So, Christine, right? Oh, in general, no problem finding it there now? Huh. I I I need to get kind of I don't know, like a product database for different types of items in different countries. And I would love to have like some sort of source for things like glossy in Norway, or wherever. Okay, so because I get asked these types of questions all the time, and then if I just try to source it online, a lot of times I have a heck of a time because I come up with places like paper industry types of stuff that are only for like printers or something like that. Look at that. I am really dragging out that color off of those trees right there. And why is that? See, to the touch like this, okay, here's the thing that's kind of weird about photo paper. Like, I'm going into it, I touch this. This is kind of dry, okay? But it's really, that ink is really sitting on the surface in that emulsion coating in there. So as soon as I add that moisture to that emulsion, I think it's putting the ink back into solution and it's dragging out like that. All right. But like I said, again, that's not going to be bothering me unless I get into some of my other colors, darker ones and whatnot. And if it keeps getting darker and darker and darker, because I plan on making this area darker anyway. All right. Okay. Yeah, I do too, Marta. That's one of the things about. Now, I do like using a lot of photo paper. Again, like I said, with alcohol pens. All right, going like if I stamped all this out and I use alcohol inks over the top of it, it's not going to smear the water-based, dye-based prints. So I find that it's a really good combination. I don't know. Or it's at least a fun one to do on photo paper. It often looks too extreme because I don't get good blends with it or anything like that, but I just add in some of the white pigment ink into those harsher applications of alcohol ink, and it just becomes part of the look. I like how alcohol inks, you can kind of get it to look a little bit kind of like watercolory in a way. Okay, let's see. All right, let me try to not smear this area in here. So I'm just going with more of an impression thing than kind of doing this where I'm kind of dragging this a little bit, okay? Okay, now what I'm doing right here is because I know that I'm going to be stamping out my subject matter in here, these little birds. Okay, so I'm keeping that area kind of illuminated so that'll be kind of my spotlit area, like as if this were a stage or something like that. All right, remember, I haven't done this in like years on photo paper. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of figuring this out as I go along. I would say, I want to say remembering, but I don't know, I'm not really remembering because I don't remember this kind of smearing like this before. But, one of those things, we're just gonna go with it, and we will adjust through the process as we get along here. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I'll try to blend things in. I'll have some things a little bit more subdued. Okay, but anyways, that's kind of, I don't know, it's developing our background tones in there. Let's go with, oh, okay, here we go. Let's go with this gray. I don't want it so bluish. I kind of want it more grayish in tinge, okay? So, a little bit more like early morning mist or something like that. Hello, Crystal Fire Creations! You still haven't tried Spectrum Noir Waterproof Black? I don't have that yet. That would have been a good one on this one, Crystal Fire. We were thinking about the stays on this one, but I thought it would stick too much to that emulsion coated paper, and you know, possibly tear it, or I was, just because that emulsion coating is just so nuts. It just, you know, it's almost like the ink's just like dry the instant it touches the surface there. So yeah. As far, I'll try the stays on here with other imagery that I'll apply in the foreground and stuff like that, you know, when we're done, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that is my kind of my base coat. Not a great application by any means. Pretty rough, okay? But let's see how this goes on here, okay? All right, so let's see. Let's go for, let me see if I have some gray. Yeah, okay, here's some Reinker fluid, London Fog. Paper towel, okay. I found a place that had Marvy ink refills, all colors except turquoise. Ah. First Stamp Square. The website looks like it's from the 90s, but the customer service was great. Huh. I don't recognize the name, but that's great that they have the refills. They also have it on just the Marvy website too, you know. Marco's Papers, I think, have it too. I don't know what happened to the Judykins website. The Judykins website used to have a bunch of Marvy stuff. I don't know. It seemed like they stopped selling on their website, though, or something like that. I don't know. I got confused. I didn't look for it too much because I was trying to find all these places that I used to refer people to, you know, pick up the, you know, the different media. Okay, so this is gray. Okay, it's just, and it's London Fog. Dragging this in and remembering very quickly how this is drying, because this is not kind of blending very well for me in terms of kind of a streakier application. So let's go back to the dabbing kind of portion, you know, type of process that you would use with, you know, makeup sponge, you know, type of thing. But excellent customer service. That is great with that site. And glad to hear, well, I don't know about glad, but good to hear that there is another site out there besides the Stampscapes site from the 90s in terms of style. Doing frames, I remember, was a big thing for us, and you know, and writing that HTML back then. All right, I don't know, this tapping, I don't know, it's going on okay. You know, it's drying for me very quickly. We'll see how I do with the darker inks. I mean, this is like the lightest ink that I'll be using on here, or one of them. All right. So we'll see how I can handle that. If I can handle that, then I guess it'll be okay. coming back to me a little bit, I guess, you know. I think one of the things that it occurred to me though is I used a ton more ink. I think, and at least on that one of those last scenes that I did, I did a super saturated surface color scheme on that video that I just watched of mine from years ago. I'm trying to think. It might have even been using my old camera, which was, let me see. God, that was, I don't know, that might have been 7 years ago or something like that. 6-7 years ago. Okay, so, all right, going with a little bit. Yeah, but I seem to recall using a ton more ink just because of that drying, quick drying aspect of it. So needless to say, the Reinkers, you know, or at least this Reinker is really kind of expediting my entire process and kind of masking over a lot of the potential really rough kind of applications that I'm really doing here. But just using more ink just in the lighter tones helps to mask over, you know, those inabilities. I mean, I would get used to this if I did this more often. And like I said, if I was using other tools, it would probably be, you know, it would be okay. Okay, here's one thing, though. One thing that occurred to me, though, looking at that video that I did, I thought that the photo paper, in terms of the degree of saturation, retention, and vibrancy of the colors, looked really good. It almost looked brighter, I thought, than the cardstock. Okay, now my cardstock applications of colors might have been smoother though, but just the vibrancy, I don't know, I was really surprised. I think I was surprised back then, but I don't know, I was surprised to see it again after not looking at it for a long, you know, years. Okay, let's see. I'm fascinated in how you repeat the same stamp multiple times, but they don't necessarily look like the same image. That's the ideal thing, Marta, you know. When I'm doing a design, I'm envisioning it being used independently. So a stamp should look good used individually, okay? But then it should also look good used in repetition. So I'm trying to envision how that would look too when I'm designing it. So there are certain things that you do, like the rule of thirds type of, you know, notion when it comes to doing a scene like this. See, I'm kind of doing this horizon up here on a third. Here's kind of roughly a third, and here's like a third down here. I don't know, I'm a little bit off, but, and see this right here, this is kind of built over there a little bit more. Those types of things, but that's what I'm trying to do in the designs themselves, so that they can look good individually, but they can also be, I'm trying to envision them when they can be used, or how they'll be used in repetition, but not you don't want it to look like, oh, there's the same image just used over and over again. So I'll tweak my designs in some ways. Maybe it's like removing a tree or adding another tree, kind of, see how this is a little bit heavier in one area and a little bit lighter, because when I'm using this, I envision this portion being used against this portion over here. So that's one of the things that I look for just out of habit when I look at other companies' stamps, and because I just can't help kind of evaluate. And I purposely try not to look at other companies' stamps, but when I see it used in a piece, It just, I'm automatically kind of thinking, okay, how did they weight their designs? Because if they weighted them properly, when it's used in repetition, there's too much overlap, kind of going on a horizontal and vertical application of it, because it can kind of you want it to look airy enough where you can see the forms within the image when used in repetition, and that's really important there. Otherwise, it's really limiting, to the user or the purchaser of that. You've made it that image where it can be used ideally kind of in one way or something like that. And also something like this, you want, imagery to be able to be used in the foreground or background a lot of times too. It can't always be done, but you try to make it as universal as possible. And it's also the way, you light things too. So, I'm lighting this mountain a little bit different than that one, or that one was stamped out lighter than this one. So there's little things like that too that you do kind of in the application process as well as the design process. But you try to make it as easy as possible for people to do kind of expression. And I figure, I'm going to be using the stamp a lot too, so I'm included in the users group for sure. Okay, let's see here. Summer sky. I don't know, I'm just looking through my Reinkers here. New sprout. God, I don't even know I had this one. This is like a green memento. I don't even know what that cantaloupe. I have a lot of colors that, I don't know, I haven't used in a while. Or at all. Alright. Let's see. Caribbean blue, no. This has developed a lot faster than I thought it would, so I'm already kind of in the darker tones. I would usually blend in a lot more tone, but let me see if I have a gray Marvy. Let me just go straight out of this one here. This pad's had it. There's like an indentation in the foam here because this pad's like 30 years old or something like that. So all it's good for at this point in time are ink applications and not being used for impressions anymore. No, the black isn't smearing anymore, Phyllis, but it's because I'm doing this if I'm going over that area. So if it is smearing, I'm kind of not aware of it. It might be dragging a little bit of color, and plus it's darker down here, so I can't really see it as much if it is smearing, because it's a gray drag mark over kind of a grayish background as opposed to like a light blue background. All right, so. Okay, so that being said, I'm not stamping the Loons until like when I'm almost done, because I definitely don't. If I smear like a tree or something like that, or rocks, mountains in the background, I really don't care about that, because I tend to make it a little bit darker anyway, and then it builds and builds and builds. But you don't want your focal points, people, animals, things like that, to be smeared at all. Word stamps, stuff like that. Okay, so this area in here, I would prefer that to be a little bit more blended in, but again, we have our alcohol ink pens, that I can come into there and do that with, all right, which I will, coming up here pretty soon. All right, so I wonder if I should do that now, or if I should hit it with some dye-based inks. Okay, here's the thing that I'm just remembering too. I think I need to do any type of dye-based ink applications before I hit it with the alcohol pens, because the alcohol pens tend to, when applied down here, they create kind of a film, a sealant in a way that the water-based inks have a little bit of a harder time penetrating. So it's best to go with the water than the alcohol, I think, in terms of a process here. All right. So, okay, this is slowly going to come back to me a little, you know what I mean? A little bit here. I mean, I still have to think about that type of thing in dye-based inks too. You know, I mean glossy photo paper, glossy cardstock. I'm getting all mixed up here. This is interesting as I'm laying this black down like this. I mean, it's like, that is like dry to the touch practically. I mean, that would be really damp if I laid down all of these tones like this on top of glossy photo paper, but glossy cardstock. Got to get this straight here. But this, I mean, I lay that down and it almost feels like I'm adding in like a StazOn or a, you know, some kind of solvent ink down here. It is just really grabbing it. I'm used to that too sometimes, you know, working in certain types of media on glossy cardstock, but not with the darkest colors, you know, after you've laid down, you know, a lot of tone, a lot of reinker fluid on there already. I'm not used to going in with black and having it just grab and dry so fast like that, so. I mean, this isn't hard to do here or anything like that, but I do think that the reinker fluids really help to expedite that entire process and to get that, you know, those areas in here applied with, I don't know, reasonable grace, I guess, or whatever. Finesse. As opposed to it being real clumsy looking. The benefits of reinkers. That was one of the titles of one of my videos. It was like really trying to sell that idea of just working with your reinker fluid, you know, for the first couple base layers of colors or something like that. Hello, Diana! You're on at a very late hour here. And Bugs, good to see you. All right. Look at that, Christine's like watching this video while at work. All right, adding this down like that. Okay. For those that have just joined in, I was just mentioning earlier that I'm trying to make a very cool in visual temperature scene right here because I'm like hot and muggy. And then I've been so like all day. I don't know, maybe I'll have like a little bit of like snowfall or something like that. I usually kind of just sprinkle kind of over a scene, like it's the first snow of the year type of thing. I don't do a lot of scenes where things like our trees are covered in snow or something like that, but it's just kind of like a sprinkling in there. Just for me, it's the texture and it's the contrast that that splatter painted white, you know, applies. You mean you can put it in there with a you know, white gel pen or white paint pen too, and you just put little dots. I mean, that's what I was usually doing before I kind of started using the Dr. Martens, but the Dr. Martens is just so much faster for me. All right, and like the, you know, the white pigment ink applications, it's just, I don't know, like it obscures kind of my weaker applications of media that inevitably occur during the process. A lot of people do, you know, their ink applications a lot smoother than I do, more precise than I do, etc. I'm just really good at hiding, you know, those types of areas that occur in my pieces. And again, it's just with, you know, it's hiding it with texture, kind of soft texture and crisp texture. And it usually represents another layer of something over the top of it. So it's like, I don't want you to see that. Cover it up, you know. And that's what people don't get a lot of times. You know, a lot of times I try to point it out too during my processes. Now, a lot of time, I get it. You know, a lot of people just can't sit through, a video demonstration like this. You know, because it's just too boring. Okay, and so they might not hear me say it a lot of times, but like in the midstream, you know, or something like that during the middle of the process, I'll just say, hey, you know, these areas in here, you know, are kind of problematic, but I just tell them, hey, you know, it's, or there might be some periods where it's like the scene's looking really ugly, okay, and I try to point that out. Because when people, let's say if they go to replicate it, they're just looking at the final result, and then they're getting to this point in time, they're saying, wait a minute, you know, I got these harsh lines here, and, you know, my ink application over here, I can see my, you know, like fingerprints, and what they mean by that is, you know, if they add like a harsh kind of application like that or something like that, and it's like right in the middle of their scene, and it's really kind of bothering them. But for me, when I get those types of things, it doesn't bother me because I just know that there's other things that I'm going to be doing on that surface that, you know, where those types of things aren't even really going to be very noticeable at all. So get into the fine art of obscure, you know, obscurity, or is that it, you know, obscuring kind of the background. Can't sleep. Well, glad you're on. I'll try to lull you to sleep here, so that you can fall asleep here. Okay, so we're going to move into grab your number whatever blue, and we are going to be applying that right now in a left to right motion. Did that put you to sleep, Diana? Have a great day, Daphne. Thanks for joining in, checking it out. Okay, so here's the alcohol pens. I love alcohol pens because they come in so many different values. This one's kind of like a mid-tone gray or something like this, and I can go in. I start off in an area where this color kind of matches the same value as the background, and I'll just kind of add it in. Oh, see, one of the things I noticed here is I'm kind of removing some of my dye-based ink that's on there, because on the photo paper, these inks are very surface-oriented. They're not absorbing into the pulp of the paper, so I can go in there and remove some of that. And let me see something like it. Let me go in with something really light like this. Let's see this right here. Okay, so this is a little drag mark right here that came into this. Do you see where that's removing the ink like this? Because I'm going in with a lighter alcohol pen into a darker area, so it's looking lighter. So I guess you can remove on photo paper where you can't do that on cardstock. All right, good night, Crystal Fire. I'm surprised you were up. Oh, you woke up and saw. I was going to say, because we were on like at, I don't know, like at 9 p.m. on another video, and you were going to sleep. Look at this right here. This is like coming into here and adding that illumination in there. All right. So I'm never going to use glossy cardstock ever again. if you can go in and remove like this, you know, you can go in with your blender pen, I guess, too, right? I'm joking. I'm not switching off, but that's kind of a powerful ability to go in and remove ink like that. And it's certainly interesting to me. But see this like streak in here? And it's like a nice, you know, it's like a graceful, I don't know, look. Okay, let's play around with that a little bit more. Let's go in with, let's play around with the blue. A little bit of a, well, that's not real light. I was going to say it's a little bit more jewel tone blue. It's not. Well, let's play around with it, though. I want to apply some of that ink on there, but I also want to remove some. All right, we can't even see that one. Okay, I'm going to have to go darker. Not to a super dark blue, but we just go a little bit darker like that. Okay, look at this. Huh. Did I just remove the ability to stamp the loons down there in a dye-based black? Okay, for the loons down there, in the I'll use the StazOn, I think. If Crystal Fire was on, she'd say, "Hey, use this." You know, if you had the Spectrum Noir, you know, you could use that. Yeah, I need to get that. I forgot about that one. I think I wrote it down too, but I forgot. All right, so anyways, adding that in. Okay, so I'm adding that in over here. All right, so it's because I can, that's kind of removing some inks too. I'm going to go in and I'm going to color some of these rocks a little bit of a different hue here too. Okay, so here's a little bit of a gray, brownish gray. That's one of my favorite colors. Okay. Nice rocks like that. Okay. But because, I don't know, because I can illuminate some, look at this rock right back in here. Let's say I'm going to take off some tone off the top of it where it's like being illuminated. Now that area is supposed to be kind of dark in there anyway, so I don't want it super light, but I'm going to put a little bit of light in there. See that right there? It's kind of like pulling that rock out of that. Some of that I shouldn't do because it should be in the shadows, but just the novelty of being able to remove some ink, I think is just making me do that there. All right, let's get some of this little bit of a brownish tinge on some of these background rocks too. If you add color like in the distance like that, it doesn't have to be a real bright color or anything like that, but anytime you do that, from a visual standpoint, you're kind of bringing the objects closer to you, because if you can see, you know, if you can differentiate things like temperature on kind of more distant objects, then you're closing in that visual space between you and those objects. Okay, let's see here. Let's go with some more of that shadow down here. It's kind of weird. I'm going with a little bit of a darker gray down here, but because it's kind of digging in there, it's like, you know, I mean, this isn't a light gray, you know, but if I add a lot of it, it's adding, then as it starts to kind of build up a little bit there, and if I keep going on there, it's like I'm removing it. So, yeah. Hello, Kathy. Thanks for checking out the vid, joining in here. Every time someone joins in or says something, I'm kind of wondering, what time is it for you? What time is it for everyone? What's interesting is some people have woken up and they've checked out, you know, their computer. And saw that the live stream was going on. I think it's great, but yeah, I think it's kind of funny too. All right. So, anyways, those are some tones. Let's go in a little bit more. Yeah, I love alcohol inks on. I love alcohol inks. I mean, on photo paper. Didn't know Laplume has alcohol. Yeah, Marvy Laplume has. They're just called Laplume Permanents. Yeah, see, you had the Laplumes. The big question back then, Christine, was do you get the Laplume double-sided pens, or do you get the Tombos, or did you have both? You know, usually people had one or the other. Well, a lot of people got the Laplumes because they had the 1500 series ones, and they were the same. You know, the color numbers and everything like that matched with, you know, a number 10 Laplume was the light blue of the Marvy 1500, you know. So they knew, you know, they had all those colors kind of figured out. Okay, that's a little bit too warm a tone. So that yellowish tinge in there. So let's go a little bit of this. I'm going to kind of blend that around a little bit. So, okay, a little bit of that greenish tinge in there. It's a little bit too much, but let's go with the gray here. The one thing about these Laplumes are that they're not double-sided, but I don't think I would really use that fine point side. I do a little bit with my Shuttle Art alcohol pens, just because I got a set of like 88 colors and it was like, I don't know, $40 or something like that. So there's certain colors that I just don't have, and I don't use too often, where I just assume buy that color for 50 cents, you know, then, you know, to have a kind of a more expensive pen. All right, so there is that. Let's get a little bit more up in some of these mountain peaks here. Like so. See, as my color strokes are kind of going more in the, you know, the angle of the mountain, because those mountains have kind of a certain kind of gesture to them. So kind of, I don't know, streak along accordingly. Streak accordingly. Is that, I don't know, is that good advice? Okay, so there is that. That's a little bit too greenish. Let's add some blue down there. I'm doing all this mixing. Like I said, I haven't done this for a while. And I didn't do a lot of it to begin with. I'm talking about coloring on alcohol inks onto photo paper. So, ooh, that's like really bad. I might have to be pulling out. I might have to pull out my my Shuttle Art tones here. When I was a sophomore in high school. There was this guy that was, I think he was a senior or something like that, but he was always, it was a art class called Art Exploration, where you basically came up with your own curriculum and you just worked on that in your art class. The idea behind it was that you go through all the different art classes and, you know, school drawing classes and painting, and then you get to art exploration and you come up with your own thing. But anyways, he did a ton of layering of watercolors. I mean, he just worked this one big, huge piece that he was working on like for the entire semester. And it seemed like he was overworking some areas, but I learned a lot of stuff just by kind of watching him just kind of laying down like light washes over and over on certain objects and forms and stuff like that. So I think I still kind of remember that stuff from him. Good morning, Tina. 2:33. Thanks for joining me. Like I said, it's like I'm gonna do these. We'll have to have it's like a live stream or stamp along, like pajama party stamping here. Okay, so that is that. All right. So, photo paper. If you just joined in, the thing about photo paper is that glossy photo paper, as opposed to glossy cardstock, is that this stuff, I mean, it works, it acts differently than cardstock, okay? This is just Kodak. I'm just, it could be Epson or anything like that. Staples, Office Depot photo paper. They're emulsion coated, okay? So when you apply your inks in this type of fashion, which maybe is not the ideal application for photo paper, it grabs your inks really fast, okay? And you can get very streaky. I was adding in some tone over the top of these dye-based ink impressions. Impressions look fantastic in dye-based ink. I would guess you can use the StazOn, but it might stick to it really hard. You have to peel it off, because it dries so fast. But there are other things you can do. And what I'm finding out right here is I've removed some of that dye-based ink. You can go with your... Like this one's just the ink, the blender, the alcohol blender tool, and I can probably come in here and remove ink, dye-based ink. See, the dye-based inks work by staining on papers and surfaces, okay? So they're penetrating and they're going into the pulp. They're staining the surface quite a bit, all right? But because this is photo paper and it has that emulsion coating, the dye-based inks are kind of just sitting in this kind of emulsion right on the surface. So I'm finding that I can go in here and just, if I want to, I can remove ink, like that. See that down there? It's almost like I'm just, see that little tone down there? I just almost like remove the emulsion right there. But you can go back in and kind of blend things out a little bit. But, there's probably other types of applications on here that are really more ideally suited for this type of surface right here. But I don't know. I just wanted to kind of experiment around. I haven't used this and played around with it in quite some time. And here's the thing. I was saying earlier that almost like all of you, right, you have probably like boxes of like that photo paper sitting around from, 20 years ago, from those printers that we used to buy that always kind of came with, you buy a Canon printer and it comes with, you get a pack of free, 8.5 by 11 glossy cardstock or something like that, or two, I don't know, whatever, it was 100 pack of 4 by 6 things came along with it. So a lot of us have that kind of sitting around still. So I don't know, I wanted to use some of it, so that, I don't know, people can come up with a, unless they watch me do this, I'm never going to do that, which could happen too. But yeah, it's good to be able to use some stuff. Like I was doing that thing on vellum the other day, and it's like, it seemed like everyone had vellum, that saw it, Some people had different brands of it and whatever, but it seemed like everyone has some vellum. Everyone has like photo paper sitting around. Hello, Kathy. Yeah. Oh, you were doing a stamp along. Awesome, Kathy. That's so cool. But I saw you doing that, Kathy, and so I thought that's the reason I'm doing, I logged on to do this. Okay, so let's do this StazOn ink, because at this point in time, this is so coated with alcohol ink. I don't think the dye-based ink is going to stick to that layer of dried alcohol on the surface. Okay, so let's go on with StazOn. StazOn kind of stamps over everything. Anything and everything, right? I hope it does here. Because if I stamp this on here and it doesn't look good, I don't get a good impression, you know, I'm going to have to obscure out this entire bottom area, or suddenly this is a bookmark, you know. We've just cut off the entire bottom portion or something like that. Okay. Oh! That came off just fine. I don't know. I went on there really fine and, you know, I pulled that off. So I'm learning from everyone, you know, when I was using that stays on. I haven't used stays on very much if you don't know that. I'm talking about throughout the years I've hardly ever used stays on ink because I didn't want to have to clean that off so much. But here, I think that, here, I just cleaned it off. See that right there? By the way, this is a stays on paper cleaner. No, I'm just joking. But see, I didn't want to have to use like stays, like solvent cleaners and like specialty types of cleaners and stuff like that. So I just kind of avoided it. But I don't know. I find that it just kind of cleans off just fine. I just kind of wipe that off. But I just use water and it comes right off the stamps. So far, okay, so I haven't had any problems as far as that goes, which is good, because I don't like doing, you know, if I don't have to do like kind of fussy types of things, especially during the process of stamping and certainly post card, you know, impression making and all that, card making, you know, I don't want to have to go and spend a lot of time starting to clean my stamps off or something like that. Okay, so let's go with a little bit more of that. That stays on. The impression does look different than the dye-based ink impression when I'm holding this up. All right, it's a little bit, the stays on looks a little bit glossier. I'm not sure if it's just because it stays on or if it's because I've already stamped those out and I put a bunch of tone over it. I don't know. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's add a little bit of foreground in here, but being careful not to cover up my loons, my focal points there. Okay. Let's see. Paula bought 250 sheets. You bought a whole ream of Chrome Coat Glossy 2 years ago, but I've only used a half a sheet. Will it go bad? Paula, I am using probably a 20-year-old pack of Glossy, okay? I can't promise you that it's not going to yellow, okay? Because it probably will if you have it for too long, like I did, okay? But I'm using it. Okay, so here's a piece of my Chrome Coat, okay? And you can see how yellow it is compared to like a piece of white copy paper like that, okay? Compared to like a piece of the, where's my other piece of photo paper? Okay, well here's like a piece of the semi-gloss that I got that's a lot newer, but this is that. But, I mean, my scenes kind of get, you know, fairly filled in anyway. So, I mean, if I do have this kind of warmer tinged paper, and plus I'd like to have a little bit of a warmer hue, so as it ages, if it gets that little bit of yellowish tinge to it, no big deal. It doesn't affect, you know, how it takes the inks or anything like that. It just, you're starting off with something that's just not stark white. Which again, I don't see it as a weakness or anything like that as far as a starting point goes. Like if, you know, one of the first things we learned in oil painting, you know, beginning painting in school was that you just, you take and you put this entire wash of like, you know, sepia or something like that over your surface of your canvas anyways. So you're not starting with stark white, okay? I realize that, sometimes that's, white as a part of the entire composition or something like that, in non kind of scenic types of scenarios. But, and other than that, I don't, I don't see it as a, as a detrimental kind of a thing, that could potentially happen. I don't know. And my pack's like wide open too. What you don't want is like, well, I guess it wouldn't happen, but I don't know, like if you don't have it inside of a pack or something like that, if it was aging kind of irregularly, like where it's a little bit yellowed or something like that on one side, or something like that, that that wouldn't really be good, But if it's kind of just aging a little bit more uniformly, not too big of a deal. For some, it might really bother some people, but, for me and my pack, would I prefer that it was white still? I guess, but, I've been stamping on this kind of yellowed, surface for so many years now, because it's been like that for probably, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like that for the last 10 years at least. But what's with the half sheet though? You need to use that more often. Use it, have fun with it. Yeah, that 200, that was it 250 sheets or is it 200? I think a ream of normal paper is 250 sheets, but I think a ream of cardstock is 200. Okay, so adding in like that, I added a little bit more texture around there just to break up the kind of those textures and going in there. And again, I want this to look real kind of foggy and misty, and I think that's where it looks kind of a little bit more kind of whimsical or magical or whatnot. And we'll add in that kind of still type of nature into the scene. I'm looking at this little opportunity right here. I think I might add a little bit of fog in here, but see this where this goes like this, and then I have this other one in the background. I'm thinking about maybe I'll put in like a layer of fog coming in through there so it looks like that's not all connected there. And that just happened, I didn't plan it out. I was just thinking this was like one shoreline right here, but maybe this goes like an inlet and goes in back of there. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of have this as this, but I'll kind of white out this portion right here where this is like, this mist is rolling in here. So I'm just kind of reading what kind of happened, by accident or naturally or whatever, and just kind of rolling with that. Thanks, Jen. What time is it for you, Jen? That's like the question that pops up at for me, a 1 a.m. live stream. What time is it? Okay, so, Jen, this is on photo paper here, which I almost never use. Okay, so let's see. Getting my white ink ready, pigment ink, okay, and starting in those lighter areas like this, okay. Start in your light areas and kind of just dab down. Your white pigment ink pads are going to be a lot juicier than mine probably, unless you're using it like I do, which is like all the time. You might even have like a pad that's been sitting around for 20 years, but if you haven't used it too much, because that pigment ink can be, really thick, you might just dab into there and dab like that, and it's like a big blob of white ink, So just, be mindful of that and use this in a much more of a kind of a dry brush application. This is, by the way, a piece of 100% cotton ball, okay? The synthetics for me just do not work at all. They tend to kind of wick the moisture away, so as I'm dabbing into it, I just don't think very much is being applied in this. So see, when I'm adding this in here, I'm kind of pushing some on the surface, and then see how it gets real frayed like that, but then it's kind of squash it down, but then you're kind of pushing some of the ink back into the surface, and that's ink that you can kind of access to as you dab this down here, okay? All right, and I mean, this pad was really dry, and it's even drier now. I really need to re-ink it. It was dry on the last scene that I was doing, so. Okay, but anyways, you see this right here? This is a little bit of a... See, I'm starting in the lighter area, and then I'm kind of working it across right here, so I don't want a big blob of it over here. We want it to transition. So you notice where I'm going from darker colors to lighter colors, it goes from the outside in, typically, because those darker colors on the outside tend to frame really nicely. And then I usually have my lighter areas in here, because it's going from dark to light. So you work from the outside edges in, okay, when you're doing your tones and shading and things like that. But then if you're doing your lighting, provided you don't have like a sun, you know, right here on the corner or something like that. But the lighter areas typically are in the interior, so you work these from the inside out, okay? So that even this is like inside out. I'm not talking about, I don't have to go all the way to the edge, but it's kind of going like this, and it's transitioning from light to darker out here, where this is going from dark to light, okay? All right, but then you can just kind of play around with it a little bit more. I'm kind of hitting this right here, and it's kind of breaking up that form a little bit. It kind of embeds it to it, or envelops that. When you have a little bit behind and a little bit in front, you're putting it kind of in this kind of element of, you know, moisture in the air, like that. And it becomes a little more kind of kinesthetic, you know. There's something that's like, you know, it's like hugging this this object, you know, you'd say in a kind of in light, you know, which is kind of from a visual standpoint, it's kind of very welcoming, you know. When something's kind of enveloped in light, like in a movie or something like that, it's kind of a inviting type of thing. If they're enveloped in darkness, it's a horror movie. Okay, now this one right here, it's a little bit darker down here and lighter up there, so I'm going like this and then going up here like that, okay? Doesn't that kind of background look a lot better, though, just with a little bit of, you know, pigment ink on it like that? And see some of this kind of going into some of these trees, and you can leave some of your trees just kind of as is, but look at that tree right there. See, it's like bathed and enveloped in soft light like that, and it brings that atmosphere into the scene like that. Okay, so again, using a very dry application here. I mean, you can go with a wetter application, just that using the drier one is just going to be a lot less kind of precarious. You know, you're not going blob, blob, blob of white paint, okay? I mean, I'm going like this, you know, you can almost can't even see anything, but kind of when you have to kind of do it in repetition like that, it develops a lot slower, so you can control really how much is being applied. Now, like I said, this one's like really dry on me, so let's go ahead and re-ink here. All right, let's see. Oh, okay, here it is. These like old passes like this are really good, but look at this right here. See that right there? That's all of my cotton kind of built up on there. That's why for me, I have two Brilliance white pads. This one's for my impressions, and this one's for my cotton application. This isn't fraying my ink pad here. This is just all the buildup of all that, those cotton fibers that build up on there. So, you know, you periodically have to kind of scrape it off like that. But again, this is my my fog, you know, white, I guess, pad. I haven't cleaned this off in like a long... This is probably the longest I've gone without this. I'm kind of shocked at how much fiber was on there. Usually if there's a lot of fiber, I can start seeing it on my cotton balls that I'm doing, but I don't know, this one was like really kind of laying down on there pretty... it was pretty embedded in here, pretty good. Okay, so I'm scraping in this pretty good like this, but you can see this, you know, if there was very much ink on there, it would really build up on this. If you know, if I scrape it like this across here, right? See, there's a little bit like that, but hardly anything. All right, let's see, let's get some on here. Now I'm gonna have to be careful about this, you know. I just probably like tripled the amount of ink that I'm going to be applying here. So you just take this, you know, and just kind of squeeze it down in there like that. I don't need this to be super evenly applied either because I'm not using it to make impressions with, so. All right, good night, Phyllis. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, Paula, you practice on photo paper. Yeah, Paula, if you have that much, just practice on the cardstock, you know. But that's why I recommend for people, unless they just, you know, well, I don't know, you've had that for a while. It seems like, and you used 1/2 of sheets. So I was going to say, unless someone's just not going to be using glossy very much, then, you know, buy a smaller pack, you know, like a 10-pack of sheets or something like that. But, you know, just the price per sheet just goes down, you know, exponentially if, you know, they buy it by the ream. Sometimes I don't know, I used to see sometimes packs where, let's say it was like 10 full-size sheets for $5. It's 50 cents a sheet, right? But, it, you know, I don't know, a pack of 200 sheets, 8.5 by 11. The cheapest I saw it was about $22 or something like that. So, I don't know. You got someone else to do the math here, but it was just so much less per sheet. But that's if, you know, people are going to be, you know, if you're going to use it, you know, a decent amount where you can, you know, take advantage of that. But the good thing about it is, though, when you buy pieces at that type of price point, this is really going along a lot faster. So I'm being a little bit more careful about kind of my application rate here. But yeah, but you don't have to worry about kind of like a, you know, experimenting on, you know, a 50-cent piece of cardstock or something like that. When it, you know, I don't know how much you bought it for, but it, you know, it's just a lot less expensive. So, you know, and if you're going to be kind of experimenting on that, unless you're just doing like layouts or something like that, like compositions, but if you're doing like color types of applications, then you might as well just use the paper that you're going to be doing it on, because it's going to be giving you the application feel and process that you know, is going to be ideal for that service. Like if you're practicing on photo paper with this, it's almost like the opposite technique in terms, or it's the opposite rate at which the media is being applied, because on this photo paper it's just grabbing the ink, but on glossy paper it's a lot less so. I mean, it kind of grabs the ink in the beginning because the paper is completely dry, but after you get into those other latter tones that you've, after, you know, applying your base layer coats and stuff like that, the feeling of it is much, it's a lot different. And you have 249 and a half pieces. still. Okay, so anyways, adding that tone down. I'm being a little bit more careful. I'm kind of thinking about adding it over here too, you know, some of this fog. I want to go down into this area here, but I've already stamped my foreground down here. So I'd be applying it over this foreground. I could just restamp it. I think I'm going to just stamp it again, okay? The stays all go right over the top of this pigment ink here. See, I want to add in some of this kind of fog in the foreground right down here. See this right here? Where you have this rock, or this light area in here. I want to put those loons kind of in the mist as well, okay? Actually, it doesn't look too bad over this foreground type of foliage here either. All right, folks, I'm going to try to get this. I've been having a okay, there it went out of focus. I was saying, okay, it's not going. It just can't regain focus on me very easily. Now, let's see. Blurry. Maybe it looks better blurry. It obscures my weak points. Okay, let me see if I can get this again here. All right. All right. Maybe if I go really slow, it'll stay in focus. Here, I'll like put my hand here. All right. Okay, but see that kind of a lighter area like that? Let's put that in that same little mist back there, and let's get some of that onto my loons as well. Okay, so the application with this white pigment ink is almost no different from glossy cardstock to glossy photo paper like this. I think this is glossy photo paper. I don't think it's a satin. Okay, so I'm putting this over some of these loons like that. So they're a little bit more varied, okay? So they're kind of sitting in the scene a little bit more. Like that. Let's get a lot more of this mist in this area in the middle here and make it look a little bit softer. Let's see. 3 in the morning. Okay, so you didn't get up, Jen. You're just still up. I'm always up at 3 in the morning too. Almost always. Occasionally I'll get to sleep at like 2. Someone in the UK, you know, said, "Hey, you know, can you do a live stream sometime?" You know, for that time time frame, I don't know, whatever time slot or whatever. And I just said, well, what would be the best for you? So she said like noon for her, which would be 4 a.m. for me. And for me, that wouldn't be too extreme. I just wouldn't be on for very long, though, I don't think, you know. It'd be like maybe that would be better, you know. I went to kind of draw these out. I'm not trying to draw them out, but, you know, I would make a much faster scene, probably. A quick scene. Not these kind of Lord of the Ring in length, you know, pieces, cards, like that. That area is looking so much better back there with this white pigment ink. I found my latest image became matte, where I applied the white pig. Yeah, it does become matte when it dries. Because it is a pigment ink, it will dry matte, for sure. It's more it feels more like, when it dries, it's almost like chalky. And like, I'd liken it to almost like a pastel, where, okay, you can spray it over, and it'll still look semi-matte, but it almost becomes like that chalk, where if you spray seal these pieces in the more delicate areas, that'll still look fairly light, but I try to avoid, so I'll spray seal the perimeter like that, because like a pastel or chalk, if you spray seal it in those areas like that, where you have like a white chalk or you know, pastel over a darker area, it becomes almost transparent, so you have to be careful about that. So yeah, when you take out all the moisture out of these pigment inks like that, you're left with this kind of this, it's almost like a raw pigment like that, so yeah. For me, I don't know. I kind of like that textural difference though, because it kind of stands out. It stands out in a couple different ways. So it's standing out from a value standpoint in terms of something light on something dark, but typically things like alcohol inks, dye-based inks, etc., they kind of go on with a pretty, especially if you're doing a satin or a glossy cardstock, of course, but they go on with a little bit more of a glossy finish to them. So from a textural standpoint, having them a little bit flatter, they'll stand out in two different ways. Value, light and dark, and texturally from like a matte gloss. Okay, so I'm just making this a little bit lighter and lighter back in here. That's pushing back that mountain back at this one. That pushed that island back at this one, and it's the same island too, so. Alright. Putting it a little bit more of fog, kind of creeping over maybe the top of the island like that. And this here area in here, I mean, it was, it was pretty rough, roughly applied, because I haven't done this in a long time, and just wasn't used to that level of absorption. And then I was dragging off some of the ink off of these impressions in the foreground like that, which we're getting in here, which I found out later I can just kind of blend out, and pick off with the alcohol pens. So, but this, I don't know, this is kind of remedying, kind of the weaker areas too, which it always seems to do for me. I spend a lot of time with this, And that's what I was saying. A lot of times I try to point out a lot more these days, about how things, it's like, take notice of this right now. This area in here was like looking really rough, okay? But then, when you get, if you go through this type of process, or acrylic paint pens, that type of thing, if you lay down another kind of layer on top of it, it really helps to kind of push things that, kind of undesirable areas back into the distance, okay? Or marks, there might be a certain mark down there, if it stands out too much, then just kind of obscure it a little bit with having something else closer to you, foreground imagery, texture over the top of it, soft texture, or a crisp texture, okay? Okay, I haven't forgotten about that Dr. Martens. The Dr. Martens, I'm wondering about that now. Yeah, I think I'm going to do it. I don't know if I've splatter painted Dr. Martens before. On photo paper. I don't remember doing that if I have, because I just haven't used photo paper very much. So let's get a little bit down. It's just going to represent, to me, it'll represent something like, a little dusting of like a first snowfall type of thing. But again, it just, for me, it's just kind of texture and adding a little bit of textural variety to the thing. And going back to that comment about, from Christine about the white pigment ink drying matte, this is something else that dries very, very matte. It's like chalk or something like that on there. All right, so just remember, if you're using this, just in order to kind of, get off a lot of that excess paint, and I'm just loading this up in just the very small kind of tip there, right there. And then, like I said, you just kind of get a lot of it out of there too. You want the consistency, what I go for is kind of the consistency of like a oh, like syrup or something like that. Maybe a little bit runnier, like a cheap syrup, you know, not like real maple, like Aunt Jemima or something. If anyone knows that reference, okay. So, okay, so here, and I'm going to hit it from about 8 inches away. Again, I'm not going for like a real specific area, like at the base of a waterfall, or I'm not hitting like stars up here or something like that. So I'm kind of hitting it from distance. Let me try to get some of this glare out so you can see where it's being applied. I don't know if you can see that at all. Can you see that? And I'm just kind of releasing like a couple little hairs at a time. I'm not just going to zip like that, okay? I kind of release a few, then I go back up with my thumb, so it's going like a couple, then I go back up, couple, okay? You can really see it in the much darker areas because of the contrast. But that's it. I don't know. I'm not putting too much, so it's not going too extreme. But see, just from a textural standpoint again, you know, it just adds a little bit of visual interest into the piece like that. I mean, you can, I do this sometimes, like in a daytime scene, you know, and it just looks like pollen in the air or something like that. But just from a textural standpoint, you can just do it just for texture's sake, you know. You don't have to kind of reference kind of reality or something like that when we're doing something that's, you know, inherently, you know, kind of expressive to begin with. Let's see. Wait a minute. Are you kidding me, Paula? That ream of paper was $30, but now it's over $100. Paula's referring. If you guys just logged on, she's referring to the ream of glossy cardstock. $100. Oh my God. Kathy, that you're talking about, Kathy, you got 500 sheets of the photo paper? Or glossy cardstock? Oh, really, Paula? Yeah. Just use your, you know, use your glossy, paper. Now, if you bought it for $100, that's a different story. If you bought that 300, you know, $30 for, you know, 200 sheets, I'm pretty sure it's a 200 sheet ream. If it's like a, unless it's like a, you know, like a text weight or something like that, like an 80-pound text weight. But if it's like a 10-point or 12-point thickness, then it's probably going to be a 200 sheet. But even at, you know what I mean, 200 sheets, that's like, you know, on a standard card piece, that's like 800, you know, standard quarter page cards. Hello, Astrid. How are you? Okay, Astrid, what time is it there for you? Hello, Donna. So that's what I was mentioning to someone earlier. It was like some people are like waking up in the morning for like these really late, you know, post, you know, midnight streams for, you know, for my time. And, you know, sometimes someone might be in, you know, like Australia or something like that. I think for Australia, it's like, I don't know, it's like 5 p.m. or something like that or whatnot. I think that's what it was. Okay, so, okay. Oh, good, that stayed in focus there. All right, so adding some little highlights in here. I'm being a little bit delicate with my use of this because this is a kind of a dark area, so I don't add in a lot of highlights in dark areas because you wouldn't have highlights, you know, there's not lighting, you know, kind of hitting in there. So in here, in a much lighter area. Okay, now here's one of the things. As I'm drawing on these little things like this, if I have a lot of the white pigment ink in there, this is not going on there very easily. It's kind of actually going up into my pen and kind of clogging it, so I'm not going to apply too much in there. Maybe if I use a little bit more dots rather than kind of drawing, it helps a little bit. But see, just kind of putting some little these textures like that on the rocks, it helps them to look a little bit more three-dimensional, I think. We're all big into textures. So speaking of textures, I don't know. Does anyone get more textural than you, Astrid? You know, in terms of your papers and all that you use? Astrid, what type of paper do you use the most? 10:15 in the morning. Okay, there you go. Okay, here's a survey for all of you. I'm kind of curious. I ask this sometimes when I was in workshops or whatever, or if I'm demoing live, but I'm just kind of curious. What is everyone's like favorite time to stamp or create or whatnot? You know, it, and is it a time out of convenience, or is there kind of sometimes where you find maybe creativity gets a little bit more unlocked for you? For me, this is like a good time for me. Like a lot of times when I'm doing these live streams, I'm trying to hit it at a little bit or a much earlier time, you know, for the US, you know, trying to get time when it's, you know, people on the West Coast as far as East, you know, can kind of join in for whatever amount of time or whatnot. But, and I'm used to doing that too, but I think I get my best work done just over the years. It seems like kind of like late at night like this for me, you know. It's like in that 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. kind of period. I don't know. Yeah. That's the same for me, Jen. I mean, sometimes when I've been like designing stamps too, maybe not so much in recent years, but because I gotta get my kid, you know, in my single days, I might see, you know, there was a lot of times when I think I saw a lot more sunrises from staying up through the night than I did seeing the sunrise from getting up at that, you know, in the morning. Okay, I've clogged my pen a little bit. I've gone into my pigment ink a little bit too much. Okay, yeah. Okay, here it's flowing again. But yeah, sometimes, and two, I mean, I wasn't doing live streams, but I'm just saying when I'm just stamping, just by myself, a lot of times I'll just stick with a scene, and or a design or something like that, and I'll just keep going, you know, until I just can't anymore. I don't know if do you guys do that too? I'm provided you know to be somewhere at, you know, 8 a.m. the next day or something like that, but. Okay, so adding in some little highlights in here. So again, with the white pigment ink, I was going from the inside out. I'm doing the same thing with this. I'm just kind of concentrating these little details like this a little bit heavier. And again, sorry, I don't know, if for some reason my camera, I can't like zoom in real close. It's just having a hard time. It's like searching and searching for focus here. But again, I'm adding more of a higher concentration of these dots down in this area, and then as it moves away from it, I'm kind of dissipating it like that. Let's see. Christine is an evening, nighttime. That is not always, yeah, exactly. Family and work and whatnot. Like I said, I can't stay up until like 4 a.m. And I got to get up at, like 6:50 to get my kid ready, ready for school and breakfast and all that. So, you just have to adjust, from probably what's, kind of more natural. I don't know if I'm doing like a real spooky kind of like a Halloween scene or something like that, which I want to get to pretty soon here. I don't know, just doing it like at noon just seems weird with the light streaming into the office. I feel like doing it kind of like at night too, for something like that. Whenever Donna does it when everyone else is asleep, yeah. It's like when everyone's asleep too. It's like, and it's like our left brain too. Almost, I've wondered if my left brain kind of, goes to sleep too, and it's like more of like a right brain type of activity or something like that. Yeah, Paula, it's the same thing there. Let's see. I like to try a lot of the paper when I see new one. Oh, yeah, Astrid, you like to really experiment around with all kinds of different surfaces, huh? I haven't experimented enough. Now, this last year really turned into, I'm talking like 2021 especially, that turned in for me into a year of a kind of extreme kind of experimentation, which I'm so glad for, because I was doing glossy cardstock for a long, long time. But then it was the metallics. I had so many metallic papers saved up that I've purchased over the years. I thought I'm going to try some of those out, and then that led to things like vellum, and I don't know if I used photo paper too much. I've used that in years past with alcohol inks, and then I don't know. Yeah, it was like totally addictive to try out new things. So I was glad I kind of went through that process. All right, so, okay, here's what I'm doing here too. I'm finding this on the photo paper. I'm going like this. I find that this pen is kind of like, because the surface is so much more surface oriented, so my white pigment ink didn't grab the surface as much. Now it's not going to wipe off like, as if it was on foil or something like that, but it's clogging my pen here. So that's another thing that's occurring to me. If I just go over a little bit of that white pigment ink, it's like in here where it's that that pigment ink, I think it's grabbing the paper in glossy or matte more, I think. I'm not sure. But I'm kind of having to kind of pump this to get it flowing more here. Okay, yes, I'm not going to get that going here. But anyways, there's that white on these trees here and whatnot. And I'm not sure, too. Here's one of the other things, too. On other types of papers, surfaces, I think that, one of the things I'm always mentioning is that you kind of have to go over your areas with white pigment ink again because it dries darker than what it looks like when it's been freshly applied. But I'm thinking it's retaining kind of its look. It's not changing upon drying. Maybe it's because it dries real fast on here, Everything kind of dries faster on the photo paper or something like that. So maybe when it's been applied, it's almost like, what you see is what you get. Where on the other types of surfaces, it's like you have to kind of wait for the transformation to see what it's going to look like. Then you make your adjustments by adding a little bit more here and there, for the most part. because it dries darker than what it looks like. So I think some of that's going on right here. So that could be a good thing with the photo paper as opposed to the the glossy cardstock. I'm talking about glossy cardstock in relation to glossy photo paper. I haven't worked on like a matte photo paper before that I can recall. Okay, so adding that in, I think that should do it there. I don't know. I'm pretty pleased with this. I think it's a little bit more textural than working on the cardstocks. I can't, it was a little bit more clumsy, but again, I think I could get used to it. And again, I do want to work on more and more types of surfaces that people have too as an option, rather than like doing, I don't know, like 99.9% if it's on a white surface for it to be cardstock. Again, a lot of people have it, and a lot of the questions I get from all over the place, Australia or something like that, they're saying I can't get, where do you get glossy cardstock? And it was like, I don't know, so, but photo paper, it's no problem to find. So I don't know, we need to find some really good solutions for that, for people to do, their pieces on, or whatever type of landscape things they do. So, but this is, it's using kind of the same media and kind of the techniques. There's a little bit of an adjustment here. And again, I haven't worked with this a lot, so I'm just kind of thinking of this, as I'm doing it. It's not like theory or anything like that. This is like a kind of experiment for me almost. Although I've done stuff in the past on it before, but not a lot. Okay, so some things are kind of coming back to me, and some things I don't know. I feel like I'm almost learning from the beginning here. Let's see. Glossy cardstock. Why do you think I purchased so many stamps? Tina wakes up from midnight to 2. Oh, Tina, you get your like your second wind? Is that what you're saying? Like that, or you actually wake up, from midnight to 2. Jane, hello, Jane. Yeah. Good morning, and have a great day. Great to see you. I love the metallic cardstocks, Paula, too. I really do. Those are so much fun to work on. Foils and things like that. Or the Stardream types of papers, the iridescents. I love those. And those ones are really fast to work with because I'm not working through like a lot of color on those. If I'm using any color, it's usually just black and white. So it's kind of just a little bit more interesting of a surface than just strictly black and white. Although I do love grayscale here. Oh, night works for you. Great. When the hubby's in bed. Thanks, Tina. Glad you like it. Have you done a piece on wood? I haven't, Paula. I have never done wood before. Have you? Here's what I do want to get, and I looked into this about maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, but I want to get that cardstock that looks like wood grain. Okay, I've seen pieces done on surfaces like that. I remember someone embossed on that like in the 90s or something like that. I had it up in like a couple of the examples in our booth, I think, for a while. She embossed her images on wood grain cardstock, and then she colored in with either pens or did watercolor on it, and I thought it looked really cool. But actual wood, no. But I have seen things done a lot more recently, like in the last 2 years. Who is the name? Okay, my mind's a blank right now. But there's someone that's a wood turner, and she stamps on her like turned bowls and projects and stuff like that. Bowls, urns. Oh my God. I don't know how she gets those impressions down so well. But I mean, if I was to stamp something on like a curved surface like that with, you got to use an unmounted stamp. So they're taking their unmounted stamps and, oh my God, my tack and peel is sticking so, I just washed it so it's sticking so, but they're taking their stamps and inking it up and then wrapping it around, like a bowl, not like this, it's more rounded, but they're doing their impressions like this and getting it on there like that. But sometimes it's not just like a jar or something like that, but it's rounded like this way, but also in the axis like this. So it's, they're having to get their impressions like that. But the thing that occurred to me too is that those wood turners, they're working with their hands for years on bowls and things like that. They're working with their chisels and they're doing carvings on their stuff. So they're working with their hands all the time. So inking something like this up and getting like a perfect impression with that for them, that's not a big deal at all. Like this one wood turner was doing a lot of that, and she was doing demonstrations and putting stuff up there like that. And someone, I figured she's practiced it or whatnot. I have a feeling she figured it out really fast too. But this other guy bought some stamps, and I said, hey, you need to be, real careful about stamping around corners, and you gotta, you probably make your impression from the middle and then go this way and then go this way with it. Imagine this is like on an urn or something like that. And I thought, okay, he's just going to do it with StazOn ink, right? And that's going to be really permanent or something like that. I said, maybe you should practice first. But, he showed me what he did, and it's like he didn't practice at all. And that's when it occurred to me, oh, these people are kind of working with their hands all the time. They're craftspeople. So just, getting, these impressions, it was like no big deal to them at all. So that's what I think about when I'm, something on wood. But then I saw a bunch of other pieces too. They were like these coaster pieces on the Facebook group. And somebody did like a series of them on these little, I don't know what they were or where they got them, but they were like, if a branch was like this and it was like a cross section, but she had several of those stamped and then they like painted in and stuff. They were amazing looking. And it looked so perfect. So like a wooden surface, yeah, stamping a scene out. It's like, I don't know. It's like this thematic, I don't know, whatever surface content combination that seems so ideal for it. So it'd be awesome. I don't know. But then I would be cheating. Kind of, I'm not stamping on wood. If I got that wood grain cardstock, I'd be working with a nice flat surface like that. So I still want to try something like that. And I guess with those wood surfaces too, if you cut something out, you can make it look like a cross section of a branch or something like that. There's probably different kinds of things you can cut out on, like if you have a Cricut or something like that with all those different templates and starting off with like something that might look wooden or whatever, and then you can do your projects on that. That would be really cool too. I don't know. I have to try it. I don't know. So that means, I don't know, have you done it, Paula, before? Or has anyone stamped on wood here before? Australia, eBay has glossy cardstock. Gum Nut, please let me know if that glossy cardstock works for you. Yeah. Oh, bye, Glenda. Thanks so much for joining in. Oh, Tina, so you get up at that time. Okay, you're in bed by 7 p.m. Okay. Wow. That is early to bed, early to rise. I haven't done a scene on wood. Some people stamp on ornament with unmounted stamps or photopolymer. Oh, right. Yeah, I don't know. I have yet to go into too many three-dimensional objects. I'm trying to think if I've... The only thing I've really stamped on that's three-dimensional, but it's flat, though, it's stamp board, or what they call craft clay board art tiles now. I mean, it's not really, I mean, that's not, like a three-dimensional object. That's a flat object that, it's totally flat surface that's just, raised, so yeah, I haven't. I'm trying to think if I've done anything like that that's been on, kind of an irregular surface. Looking back, you think I would have somewhere along the line, but I don't remember. I've taken some workshops before, like when I've been in, like at retreats. If I've been, if I didn't have a class during a certain hour, sometimes, like another teacher would let me sit in on their class and do that. But I seem to recall doing something where we stamped on. It was like a frame or something like that. But I don't remember too much about it. That was like 150 years ago, I think. Okay, so glossy is art quality on eBay. Just check seller and listing thoroughly. Were there multiple choices, Gumnut, or were there just like one or two or something like that? If you can email me, if you can email me a link, that would be great. Stampscapes@gmail.com. That's Stampscapes' email that I use these days, or Kevin@stampscapes.com. I use the Gmail address more often, but I'm getting questions about that type of thing periodically, but on a fairly regular basis. I was telling someone earlier, I'd like to put together some sort of especially like a glossy cardstock. I don't know if it'd be a database, but just kind of an information sheet. Maybe I'll put it on maybe the information section of the Stampscapes website. I'd love to have like some different countries where people can get things like glossy cardstock. That would be really great. Yeah, that time at night, huh? When there's no noise, it's very still. I love this time to stamp. Yeah. And like I said, I get my second wind, and my left brain kind of shuts down a little bit, or I don't know, my right brain's a little bit more in tuned as far as like the creative process or something like that. Less analytics or something like that, and more of the creative side of the brain hemisphere, maybe. That's what they say, at least. That's my theory. I don't know. It may be when I'm a little bit tired, it's better in terms of a crafting hour. But yeah. If you can send me an email, or if any of you know, like glossy cardstock, whatever country you're in, if you can send me a link to it, I'll post it on the information section of the website. It would be really great to have that type of thing. And especially if you've tried these cardstocks out. I find that there's a lot of variation with glossy cardstock, though. Just at buying, taking 3 samples at Kelly Paper, I did a comparison video on the website. I think it's in the playlist, like under media, maybe. I probably put it in that one, but I tried those 3 glossy cardstocks, and they really took the ink quite differently. I came up with saying, I think, the chrome coat seemed to be the most universal, but some of them, you wouldn't notice the difference, but if you laid down like a ton of, like in here, where I've laid down like 3 or 4 layers of ink, that's where you started to notice it. But if you're just doing like light applications of tone, like with a blending brush or something like that, and just adding it down there, I mean, all of them would work universally well. But when I started layering down a lot more ink, this is not a glossy cardstock here, I'm just saying for example, or like in these areas up here where there's a lot of media applied up there, mostly the dye-based inks, I started seeing some patterning happening that was showing through on a couple of those different cardstocks. Some of it would be kind of interesting to have in there. I don't know that you'd want it just inherently, but if you incorporated it texture into your scene, I think it would be pretty interesting. I'm trying to think of the brands offhand. It's noted on that video, but I was surprised at just how different some of those glossy cardstocks were. I've found less variation with the satin cardstocks before, the ones that are lightly coated with, whatever that gloss or sealant is that's on those ones. I found that those ones, as far as the ones that I've used, I don't think there was too much of a big difference in those types of papers. So I think there was a glossy cardstock from Australia, and here it is right here. I mean, you can't tell from the surface. If I held up, chrome coat next to this, I mean, you're not gonna. This one's just older and it's yellowed, but this one right here, I really love. And my client in, I used to have a distributor down there in Australia, but she would bring, when she came to the Carson convention, she would bring me like a ream of it each time. And it was super coated and glossy, but it was so coated that it was hard to apply, like multiple layers of ink down on it. Before it was just super saturated. It wasn't saturating through, it wasn't penetrating into the surface of the paper. So you had to kind of wait for it to dry a little while before you can apply more, because it was just puddling up and it was just building up so much on the surface like that. But it was super glossy though. And that was a paper out of glossy cardstock out of Indonesia, which was probably a lot of the sourcing for cardstocks in that area in Asia, and like Australia, probably New Zealand too. They were probably using that one. It's called paste setter cast coated, but that one was very different though too. So again, it's due to probably the yeah, Christine, I'd love to know where in Norway you were able to access that, and like I said, I'll post it on the information section of the website and their glossy cardstock. So, okay, they have Chrome Coat and Amazon 200 sheets, but I think it's a little different than the old Chrome Coat. It is, Kathy. It depends how far back we're talking about with Chrome Coat, but Chrome Coat went out of business probably 10 years ago, I would say. And CTI Papers had a glossy cardstock called Bind-A-Coat. Okay, CTI is out of Italy, but they just, with Chrome Coat gone, Chrome Coat was a U.S. brand and mill from what I think it was, and they just went out of business. So CTI purchased the name Chrome Coat to rebrand their Bind-A-Coat. They didn't change the formula. They didn't go with the Chrome Coat formula, but they just changed the name of Bind-A-Coat to Chrome Coat for name familiarity. And that's what we're using now as Chrome Coat. But I found that Bind-A-Coat Chrome Coat works pretty good. Maybe not as good as the old Chrome Coat, but it's right up there as far as I guess ink retention and saturation. I find it was really good. I haven't used it with every brand of inks or anything like that, but just the ones that I use. Which are Ranger, Memento, Marvies. I don't know what else. I've used it with the Clear Snap. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. If they Google this, add Australia, actual listing, 10 sheets gloss white cask. Okay. And 10 sheets at 300. Let's see. So you're buying it by the 10 pack there, then, right? That looks pretty expensive. I remember Ranger was selling something in their packs. Now, I don't mean, I have no idea what they were using, but I suspected it was Chrome Coat and repackaging the Chrome Coat in 10 packs like that. But what brand is that gum nut? Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, that 10 sheets of gloss white at 1360. I mean, that's like 40, card size pieces right there. So, and someone else found really cheap glossy cardstock, and I don't remember where they were in Australia, but I just remember I was trying to find them like a source for it down there, just to purchase it online or whatever, and they just said no, they found it, and it was at this printer or paper supply place. But when I asked them about it, I was mentioning this in another live stream. I don't know. They didn't write back after that. We were exchanging like a few times a day. It was like when they found that source, and I asked them about it. It's like never a reply after that. They might have wanted to keep that source all to themselves or something like that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was limited inventory or something like that. So. That's what I suspected, but I wish I knew where they got that paper from. But yeah, I don't know, it was fairly inexpensive. This is several years ago, though. Not 10 years ago, but it was probably only like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, they weren't sharing. But still working. Yeah, 20. Kathy's got that 20-year-old ream. That's the best stuff right there. Paper is getting the paper industry has really been volatile. I talk about that with the managers over at Kelly Paper, and they just said, yeah, there's just been upheaval happening, and it hasn't just been in the last like 2 or 3 years. It's been going on for at least 10 years. Like Chrome Coat made, where is it? Chrome Coat made this right here, too. Isn't that insane? That's the most crazy cardstock, like, ever, okay? And what you can get now is this, okay? It's a different, this is Rainbow Holographic then. This is the Recollections Rainbow Holographic. This one almost goes a little bit better with scenes, though, for a sky. Kind of not so crazy looking. But that's the type of thing that you can get, I don't know, whatever, 10, 12 years ago. But just those like super interesting kind of boutique types of papers, they're not around as much anymore. You can't walk into Kelly Paper and see, I don't know how many paper versions were out there back when, like in every one of their stores, warehouses, but I don't know, they might have 300-400 varieties of paper, and then they'd always have it in 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, and then you can order it in whatever quantity. If you want to, you can order like master sheets. I don't know what they were, several feet by 10 feet by 5 feet across, for the printing industry. But there were so many different varieties there now. And then if we walk in there now, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 75 different papers of any type. Not that they're not being manufactured, but they just might not be in stock anymore too. So I don't know. Yeah, all right, so good to see you, Paula. Thanks so much for joining in. Yeah, isn't that crazy cardstock there, Jen? I wish I bought a ream of it back then. It was very expensive, though, back then. It might have been $40 a ream, which was really expensive for paper back then. Nowadays, a ream of just glossy cardstock might be, 40, 50 something dollars, just, in terms of sourcing and things like that now. But back then, I was able to get like a whole ream of glossy cardstock for probably $20, no problem. So that one was like, and then I wondered what would I ever use that for. But then I started, playing around on those foils like that, those holographic foils. I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. So you can use things like brilliance inks and stays on it. Whereas before I was thinking, dye-based inks aren't going to stick to it at all. Brilliance ink was around back then, but I don't know, it hadn't occurred to me to use it on those non-porous types of surfaces like the iridescents and the metallics like that. But yeah, they're just so dynamic to work with. When you're working on, a type of paper that's this loud, and I'm doing a scene on it, largely I'm just trying to tame that kind of high intensity, where I'm blotting a lot of it out, where it's just kind of more of a, I don't know, kind of it's a significant feature, but it's a little bit more blended in. So I use a ton of white and black ink to just kind of pull it back in a little bit, where you're a little bit aware of the imagery or the scene that's on there because it's so loud, And then, of course, with something like that, too, you don't have to do any colors because the colors are already inherently in the surface like that. So it's awesome. Yeah, try a local print shop. That's what I'm kind of recommending to a lot of people. If there are local print shops that are still around, a lot of those print shops are becoming, kind of few and far between. Like someone was asking me, I think it was in Austria or something like that. And I was just thinking, as I'm typing this out, see if they have any local print shops. But, I'm just wondering, are there print shops still around that are printing up people's invitations and business cards and stuff like that, where they're not just doing that online now? But those types of print shops would always have that type of paper in stock because that's the type of thing that they'd be making their business cards and invitations and flyers and all that type of thing for, And a lot of times, they would sell that, to a customer. They would sell some sheets of it, for sure. So that's generally what I recommend. But, being that it's not like a normal thing, people don't, I don't know. I guess they got to, if they're in a larger city, then probably there might be a print shop around. But rural, kind of areas or, suburban areas, if there would be a print shop, I don't know, these days. I think I can still get the holographic card set from Elizabeth Crafts Designs. Yeah, if you can get that, there's a lot of that. This one right here, this crazy one was, I found it on, okay, there was Tonic Studios, okay? They had some of this in stock still, okay? And I also found some of it on another website. I don't remember what it was. And then Etsy, there was some kind of Etsy seller that was selling that. So, okay, so Froggy Fresh, I was thinking about you. It was, this is on photo paper here. So Froggy Fresh, she tried an 11 by 17 inkjet printer paper. So this is this one right here. That's on the photo printer, photo inkjet paper. I just wanted to try it, I wanted to see what I can do. And I just wanted to use some Loons on a scene too. So I figured, okay, I'm just going to combine the Loons and this photo paper because I haven't done it in quite some time. But we were just talking about kind of availability of different types of surfaces, like worldwide here. Where do you get glossy paper if you're in, where Norway or in Australia, that type of thing. So that's like one of the good things about this type of thing here. We can kind of make use of everyone's kind of local, knowledge, and I'm going to put it into I don't know, like a little database or something. I have my materials the FAQ on the website, and I want to get some of those things down. Those things are changing though all the time. Like it used to be Astrolux, I think, in the UK as far as a glossy paper, and there used to be a website that had it. I had an old link up, and it was like that was a dead link or something like that, or the Astrolux, if that was the name of it. It's like I don't know if it was even still around. So, yeah. But yeah. But anyways, yeah. If you can get that glossy, I mean the holographic paper. See, this one was the Tonic Studios one, I think. This is the Mirror card, and it says Hollow Waves, okay? So that was, like I said, I'm pretty darn sure that was the chrome coat version of it. But, yeah, I don't know, I cut off the top portion so I can access that, but now that's like, if you can get that around, it would be really cool. If you were into it, you know. Those types of crazy surfaces like that. I found that more of the rainbow holographic types of surfaces seem to be the vinyl these days, you know, that people are using. But I don't know. I mean, but that'd be a lot more expensive than a rainbow holographic cardstock. But then, you know, like I said, that more mellow one right here, this one's like a 25 pack of 8.5 by 11. And that's $6, and it's on sale all the time at Michael's for like a buy a pack, get a pack free. And you don't have to buy 2 rainbow holographic packs. You can buy like any of their papers, any of those recollections papers, and get the second 1.5 off. It's like, I don't know, it's like 4 or like, I don't know, whatever, it's 4 something per pack for 25 sheets. It's like extremely inexpensive. It's kind of cheap made paper, but you know, who cares? You know, we're not really looking at the back of these. I'm mounting this on something anyways. This is like new, you know, not newsprint, but, and it's like that brown paper, craft paper or something like that that's mounted on. So this is like really flimsy, and it's kind of textural too. But again, if it's that cheap, who cares, you know? But I love all this. This is the Recollections one too, stamping on those types of papers. It's really fun. As long as you have a media that's going to dry on there. So, yeah. But, okay, so anyway, it's at 2, it's at 2 a.m. here. It's much later for all of you. If you're still up and you went through, it might be early for some of you, like you just got up. I'm up at, my kid is marching at the state fair. Oh my God, that marching band, that's brutal. See, my son, he was probably going to do a marching band, but he's like changed his mind, you know, with, when he was doing some of that. Yeah, but that's all, oh my gosh. And then the volunteers for marching band having to load up all those instruments and do all of that type of thing. And then they'd be on the, what is it, the strike team where you're running out there and grabbing all that stuff. And oh my God. That my son didn't do it because I'd be volunteering on all that stuff if he did that. I was thinking, yeah, I guess you know, I don't know, I do miss volunteering a lot at school for school functions, but I was like, I don't think I'm going to miss that. Yeah. But anyways, all right. So, good night, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in. Thanks for the info on papers and whatnot and inks and whatnot. You know, a lot of you have the photo papers. I would recommend giving it a shot. I don't know. I found this one to be pretty fun, and I like, you know, for me, it's always about, with these one, I always talk about the process, but I think the end result of this one's pretty interesting in terms of how it took, you know, the stuff that I like to do, like the white pigment ink in there. That is not fading out at all, which to me is really interesting. I don't know, I think I forgot about that. But like I said, if you can kind of add stuff in there and what you see is what you get without having to adjust it, that's not a bad thing. And then if you just kind of joined in later, and I added a bunch of dye-based inks on here, but I went back in with my alcohol inks, and I was able to remove some of the dye-based inks that had already been applied. That's like a pretty powerful ability to be able to do that. So if you can remove a medium that works by staining, you know, when it's used on Cardstock, I don't know, just that is a pretty powerful ability to, you know, like I said, to remove, which we usually can't do with most types of surfaces and media combinations. So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, marching band's going to be much more insane than like any of the sports, I think. And then I don't know, they're doing stuff that they're marching bands. They're like practicing like at 7 p.m. because they have to practice on like the football fields after football's already done. So, yeah. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Good morning, etc. Yeah, startering paper is totally different now. Startering paper is different? Huh. Is you're saying the formula is different? Now, Kathy, I found that a lot of the startering papers from like the metallics and different colors were different too. So, yeah. All right, everyone. Great to see you. Have a great like rest of day or night or whatever. And yeah, take care, and we'll see you on the next live stream, hopefully. Yeah.